Hi, this is Shalimar Steinberg, and today I will be talking about one of our modify commands, array. And the array command is designed so that you can have one object or multiple objects on your screen and create a grid of them, like rows and columns copies, or a polar array, which will go around a circle. I will show both examples. So I'm going to start off by drawing a couple of objects to use. Circle, I'm going to add a line to it, like this, and then over here I'm going to just draw some little rectangles. Alright, so if I have my little rectangle area, I'm going to start out by doing what's called a rectangular array. And for the rectangular array, what you're going to do is select the objects that you have, or the object that you want copied, and again tell it no more objects. And now it goes into the array ribbon specifically. And so here I'm able to tell it how many columns I want. Remember that columns are the vertical structure of rows, and then how many rows I want, which are the across. So I would like, for example, 3 by 3. So I will tell it 3. I'm also able to tell it specifically how much space I want in between them. And if you look at the column spacing here, you'll see that it is from the bottom of the top row to the bottom of the next row. It tells you how much space you could have. And so I could make them closer together by putting just enough space for the object itself with no gaps. Or I can add a little more padding if I want there, like this, to be gaps in between the rows. I can tell it to be associative, which means that it will stay as a poly object, meaning that all parts are treated as one. Or I can turn associative off, and then it will become so that each block is its own little individual thing. I can also specify a base point on the array if I want to for some reason. Once I'm happy with the spacing of my objects, then I can go ahead and close array. And now you see that I have my little array of objects. It is all, like I said, left as one poly object right now. I could explode it if I needed to, or I could have gone into the array and turned off the associative feature. So I can do however many rows and columns I want to do with this command. The next one that we can do from the drop-down is called the polar array. And with a polar array, it's going to distribute the object copies in a circular pattern around whatever center point that we pick. So we have choices on the object of where we want to pick the center, and they're going to make different things happen. So I'm going to show you a couple of different variations with this object. So I'm going to do the polar array, and I'm going to select my objects, and tell it no more objects. To start with, I'm going to pick the center point of the circle, and you'll see that when I do that, it allows me to define how many items I want. I'm going to say 8, and then that automatically makes it 45 degrees in between each object to fit them around the circle. And I could make multiple rows if I wanted to, but I'm going to stick with one row for this, so that they're just arrayed once around. I'm leaving them associative again. And I could rotate the items, which is what I want. If I do not say rotate the items, they will instead go like this and just have the item arrayed around, still facing its original direction. I want the items rotated. So then I could close the array, and this would be my shape. If I go back and I do the same command, the array polar, and I select the same object, but this time I specify my center point as out here on the pole and tell it my 8 times around. Leave everything else the same. Then I'm going to get it arrayed around that center point so that I get this kind of lollipop ring effect. So I have the option of choosing where on the objects. I could also, if I wanted to, choose the array command and select it and choose somewhere out in space here. And I might want to come down in a straight line just to keep it lined up, but I don't have to. And then choose my array around that point. And so I get this kind of ring with a gap in the middle. So you can make decisions about how you want to space things in order to get your array working. And because it's one object, I can select any piece of it and then interact with it again if I need to. It reopens this array command. Okay, the last choice that we have is to do what's called a pathline array. And so I could make this curved kind of path, or I could do it along a straight path if I wanted to. And then I could do the path array. I need an object that I want on it, so I'm going to draw just a little circle here. Maybe they're trees or light posts along a street path or anything that I want them to be. And you'll see I can pick the path array. I'm going to select the object. Then I'm going to select the path curve. And now I can tell it how many items. You see how this is highlighted in blue? That it's not going to let me edit that because it's highlighted, but I can just click it and then I can edit the number of items. And so I can tell it, say, 15 that I want it to do. One thing that you have to be aware of with the curved lines is that it's going to want to, anywhere that there's a pinched corner, it's going to want to put them too close together. So you might have to explode them afterwards and then go in and remove one of the pieces to make them fit correctly. Again, you can tell them to be associative. You can measure a specific distance in between them. You can align the items so that they stay the same spacing kind of along the line, etc. And then when you're done with it, you can go ahead and close that command as well. So this can be useful if you're doing like a plate and you want to put spaced bolt holes around the outside, or if you have, some kind of shape and you want to draw teeth for a gear or something like that around the outside, you can array them all along the edge. All right, those are the basics of the array command.